Chapter 13, the day before yesterday. After a few moments of flashing lights, everything became quiet. Harold opened the potty door and peeked down into the darkened library. Cautiously, the two-time traveler stepped into the library window and looked out. There they saw Melvin's father, Mr. Sneely, zapping by on a book away with a blast from the Cabanachar 2000. "Been there," said George. "Done that," said Harold. In the corner, George and Harold found the coat and the hat which belonged to Miss Singerbricks. Immediately, they thought of a plan. Harold put on the coat and hat and climbed onto George's shoulders. "I sure hope this disguise works," said Harold. "It better," said George. "We can't risk letting them recognize us." Soon, George and Harold were at the scene of the action. Mr. Sneely had just fired the Cabanachar 2000 second time, and now the boys were ready to make their move. Excuse me, Mr. Sneely," said Harold, trying very hard to sound like a grown-up. "I'd like to present to you the most brilliantest science guy of the whole wide world award." "Really?" cried Mr. Sneely. "It's always been my dream to win that award." "But first," said Harold, "I'd like to have a look at that Cabanachar thingy." "Okay," said Mr. Sneely. He handed Harold the Cabanachar 2000 and smiled proudly. Said Harold, "I need to look at it behind those bushes over there." George and Harold waddled over to the bushes, unwound their coat, and switched the two Cabanachars. Then they waddled back and handed the fake Cabanachar 2000 to Mr. Sneely. Everything seemed to be in order," said Harold. "But before we present the award, we'd like to get a photo of you." "Who's we?" asked Mr. Sneely. I'd like to get a photo of you," said Harold nervously. George stuck his hand out of the coat and held up the Forget-Me-Call 2000. "Say cheese," said Harold. Mr. Sneely looked down and shook George's hand. Then George pressed the button. Flash! Suddenly, Mr. Sneely forgot everything that had just happened. Dazed and confused, he stumbled back and rejoined his wife just in time for the row of boogers to come to life and smash the fake Cabanachar 2000. Meanwhile, George and Harold were running with all their might back to the library, carrying the real Cabanachar 2000. "That was so easy," laughed George. "Yeah," said Harold. "We sure got lucky this time." But when they reached the library door, George and Harold discovered that they hadn't been quite so lucky after all. Chapter 14, Miss Singerbricks. "What the heck is going on here?" shouted Miss Singerbricks. "I just got back from the restaurant and found a portable potty in my library." "Harold, zap her with the forget-me thingy. Quick! Nobody zap me anybody with anything!" shouted Miss Singerbricks. She grabbed the Forget-Me-Call 2000 out of Harold's hands and yanked the Cabanachar 2000 into George's hands. "I'm taking the case to the police right now," she said. "Maybe they can sort this mess out." Miss Singerbricks marched downstairs to the parking lot, got in her car, and began driving to the police station. "Well," said Harold, "we'll never catch up to her now." "Sure he will," said George. "All we need are some wings." Chapter 15, 65 million years before the day before yesterday. George and Harold grabbed a box of saltine crackers off of Miss Singerbrain's desk. Then the two friends stepped inside the purple potty and closed the door. Quickly, George reset the controls and pulled down the chain. A flash of green light lit up the room and the purple potty vanished. Suddenly, George and Harold were transported back in time to the late Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic era, a time when dinosaurs ruled the earth. Cautiously, George and Harold peeked out of the purple potty, which is now nestled precariously in the branches of a tall tree. "Here, chicky, chicky, chicky!" called George. "Polly, what a cracker!" called Harold as he tossed a handful of saltines into the air. Suddenly, the two boys were swarmed by hungry pterodactyls. Before long, a friendly-looking pterodactyl, or Quetzalcoatlus to be exact, swooped down and grabbed some crackers from Harold's hand. "Oh, look," said Harold, "he likes me." "Great," said George. "Let's get him into the time machine and get that out of here." Carefully, Harold took the pterodactyl in his arms and he carried him to the purple potty. Then the boys closed the door behind them, reset the controls, and pulled down the chain. Suddenly, George and Harold and their new reptilian pal were transported forward in time to the day before yesterday. The door of the time machine swung open, and the three friends sailed out of the purple potty, through the library window, and up over the town. George looked down at the city streets until finally he located Miss Singerbrain's car. "There she is!" George cried. "I sure love our new pterodactyls, Harold. I'm going to name him Crackers." "Don't give him names," said George. "We're not keeping him. We're just borrowing him." George, Harold, and Crackers swooped down and landed on Miss Singerbrain's car, which was stopped at a traffic light. Miss Singerbrain screamed in horror. "Wait!" cried George. "There's no reason to be afraid. You're just dreaming." "I'm dreaming?" asked Miss Singerbrain. "Sure, think about it," said Harold. Purple potties appearing out of nowhere, kids running around laser zappers, pterosaurs landing on your car. This stuff only happens in dreams. "Gosh, you're right," said Miss Singerbrain. "But it all seems so real." "Well, trust us," said George. "In a few minutes, you won't remember any of it." Before long, George, Harold, and Miss Singerbrains were all gliding back to school with their good pal Crackers. The Cabanachar 2000 for the Forget-Me-Call 2000 were safe once again. Wait, is Crackers clinging onto her panties? What the hell? Anyway. Soon they arrived back at the library. "I'll keep an eye on Miss Singerbrain," said George. "You take that pterodactyl back where you found him." "Oh, can we keep him?" asked Harold. "No," said George sternly. "He belongs to the store time. Now take him back." "Oh, man," said Harold. Sadly, Harold carried Crackers to the purple potty and closed the door. After a few seconds, the time machine disappeared in a flash of green light. A half hour later, another flash of green light filled the room, and the purple party was back. What took you so long? Asked George. Nothing, said Harold. Did you have any trouble taking Crackers back to his home? Asked George. Not really, said Harold. You did take him back to his home, didn't you? Asked George. Sure, said Harold, though he doesn't sound very sure. Quickly, George zapped Smith's secret brains with the forgetful call 2000, jumped to the purple party. Then, with a quick flash of green light, they were gone. Chapter 16, back to the present. Mr. Melvin was very happy to see his purple potty return to him, and even happier to see his beloved Combined Charge 2000. Now all I need, he said with a sneer, is to find Captain Underpants. Fortunately, Captain Underpants, who you'll probably remember who looked just like Mr. Melvin Sneely, wasn't too far away. Unfortunately, he had spent the last 2 days getting himself into trouble. First, he started off by annoying some old ladies. Captain Underpants had been helping them cross the street when he heard a little girl crying for her kitten, which was stuck in a tree. Counterpants rescued the kitty, but forgot about the old ladies. Hey! Shouted one of the old ladies. That fly kid just left us up here in the tree! I'm gonna get that kid as the last thing I do! Said the other old lady. Next, Counterpants was soaring above the football field when he encountered an unidentified flying object. It was made of brown leather, had white stitching on the side. Said Counterpants. This could be a dangerous UFO! He grabbed it and flew down to the football field, where oddly the school's football team was having a big game. I want anybody to panic! The Counterpants shouted. But I just captured this UFO! I'm gonna take it to the boat where it can be safely destroyed. Suddenly, the players from the visiting team tackled Captain Underpants, which cost the home team 50 yards and the game. That kid just made us lose our biggest game of the year! Shouted Mr. Meter. I'm gonna get that kid as the last thing I'll do! Snarled the quarterback. Finally, Captain Underpants got on the bad side of some skateboarders in the park. He had politely pointed to the no skateboarding signs, but the skateboarders refused to go away. So Captain Underpants had no choice but to snap the skateboards in half with his kung fu kicking action. Then it was spankings for everyone. Dude! Cried one of the skateboarders. That little dude just like dude in our dude boards. Dude! Said another skateboarder. I'm gonna do that dude. It's the last dude I dude! Chapter 17, the big switcheroony. Mr. Melvin ordered George and Harold to stick their heads out of the window and called for Captain Underpants. Soon the waistband warrior appeared. Mr. Melvin welcomed the caped hero inside and asked him to pose for a photo. Why not be delighted? Said Captain Underpants. Great, said Mr. Melvin. Put these clothes on and stand over there. At first, Captain Underpants was reluctant to put on clothes, but he finally agreed. Mr. Melvin, who had worked all afternoon reconfiguring the Combined Charge 2000, pressed the start button and then ran and stood beside Captain Underpants. Suddenly, two glowing lasers began encoding the DNA of the two subjects it was about to combine. Then a burst of brilliant red light shot out of the Combined Charge 2000 and formed a ball of energy between Captain Underpants and Mr. Melvin. They both slid together into the red light, formed a giant glob of freshly fleshy goo. Well, I don't know why I say freshy. I meant fleshy. Anyway, the newly reconfigured Combined Charge 2000 then switched polarities and began the process of separating the two human elements. The red ball of light slowly changed to a lovely shade of green. Suddenly, there was a blinding flash of light, a quick puff of smoke, and it was all over. Everybody's brains were back where they belonged. Well, that sure is a weird camera, said Captain Underpants, who now looked exactly like Captain Underpants. Can I take these clothes off now? They're bad for my image. Go right ahead, said Melvin Sneely, who now looked exactly like Melvin Sneely. Finally, it looks as if everything was back to normal, but as we all know, looks can be deceiving. Chapter 18, The Return of the Ridiculous Robo Butchers. Just then, the Poopsie space shuttle landed at Piqua International Airport. It wasn't the smoothest of landings due to the fact that the three robotic boogers had just eaten most of the shuttle's tail fin and nearly all of its rocket thrusters. Major Tomsky and his crew had barely escaped with their lives. Inside the school library, Captain Underpants heard the astronauts' panic cries coming from the airport. This looks like a job for me, he shouted. And with the mighty troll, he laid down the window and fell 3 stories to the ground. Crash! See, it's funny. He landed on the grass, but he could have landed the pillows with a trampoline. Funny, right? Was I laughing? Anyway, George and Harold screamed and ran downstairs. Counterpants! Are you okay? Speak to us! Cried Harold. Counterpants slowly lifted his head in confusion. Mommy, he said weakly. My tree went swimming to the piano. Meanwhile, over at Piqua International Airport, Carl Trixie and Franken Boucher had just finished eating the space shuttle and were now starting to muster the control tower. The three globby gluttons grew bigger and bigger with every enormous bite. Come on, Counterpants, cried George. You gotta save these people. But I forgot how to fly, said Counterpants sheepishly. You won't forget, laughed Melvin Neely, who was now floating above their heads. You just lost your superpowers. But don't worry, they've been safely transferred into my body. Now I'm the world's greatest superhero. Melvin, cried George. Those robot boogers came back to Earth. They're attacking people at the airport. You gotta help these people. I'm not doing a thing until you guys change that comic book, Melvin said. And you better make me look cool this time. But there's no time, cried Hale. These people need your help now. Well, you better start drawing that art boy, said Melvin. Chapter 19, None to Overestimate the Power of Underwear. George and Kyle begged Melvin to use his superpowers to save the day, but Melvin continued to refuse. Finally, Captain Underpants stepped in. You may have taken away my superpowers, the Wasteman Warrior said, but I still have the power of underwear on my side, and nobody can take that away from me. Captain Underpants turned and ran toward the airport. Melvin cried George frantically. If you don't do something, those butchers are going to kill Mr. Crump. That's not my fault, said Melvin. You're the ones who wrote that stupid comic book about me. Now change it around. George and Harold looked at each other. Their choice was simple. Either fight with Captain Underpants and probably die, or give in to the dark side and live. The two boys turned and ran to the airport. Chapter 20, Booger Brunch. George and Harold quickly caught up with Captain Underpants. Soon they were all at the airport witnessing the carnage of the ridiculous robo-boogers. Captain Underpants shouted out, trying to troll off from below. Suddenly, the three robo-boogers turned toward the familiar-sounding voice. Quickly, their laser-guided eyeballs zoomed in on the three of the heroes who had made their life so miserable back in Chapter 1. Immediately, the robo-boogers leaped at George, Harold, and Captain Underpants, and the chase was on. Again. Chapter 21, Cornered. The robo-boogers continued chasing George, Harold, and Captain Underpants, until at last the three fine friends were cornered at a local shopping center. In a desperate attempt to save themselves, the three brave heroes began taking items from the outside sales bins and throwing them at the snarling beast. George grabbed a pair of low-fat tennis shoes and tossed them at Trixie. Trixie gobbled them up. Harold found a delicious tube of wild cherry-flavored hemorrhoid ointment and flung it at Frankenbooger. Frankenbooger swallowed it whole. See, I changed it a bit. Once more. Anyway, Captain Underpants picked up a genetically modified organic Captain Underpants picked up a genetically modified organic orange-flavored orange and chucked it at Carl. Carl chewed it up with a smug grin. Suddenly, Carl's laser eyes grew incredibly large. The haughty smile on his face turned into a panic gasp as the wet, gushy snot that covered his body began to dry up and crumble. Huge, crispy booglets shot out of his smoldering robotic exoskeleton like green popcorn. "What's going on?" cried Harold. "It's the oranges," said George. "It's got to be the vitamin C in these oranges. It's combating the cold and flu that causes those boogers to turn evil." Carl thrashed around brutally as more and more of his disintegrating body cracked off and fell to the ground. Finally, the lights in his panic-stricken laser eyes slowly went out. He stumbled over and crashed horribly into the parking lot. Carl was dead.